Good afternoon, everyone. It's Steve Lookner with Right Side Broadcasting. We are here to cover a story which broke last night but developed further this morning. A further development in the various sexual harassment allegations stories that have been coming out over the last couple weeks. Today, Mark Halperin is the one in the story. Mark Halperin, the well-known political analyst, co-author of the book Game Change, and he is a pretty much somebody who has daily appeared on Morning Joe and other MSNBC shows over the last number of years. I personally enjoy Mark Halperin's analysis. I actually think he's someone who is not, I don't see him as a partisan person. I see him as somebody who gives often very interesting analysis that you don't hear other places, and as someone who's not giving an ideological spin in his analysis. I hear him calling things the way he sees it. So I've enjoyed Mark Halperin's analysis, but Mark Halperin, you will not be seeing him for the time being on Morning Joe or other MSNBC shows or on other NBC News shows, because Mark Halperin has been suspended by MSNBC and NBC News for over sexual harassment allegations. There was a story that came out, and we will go through the story, on CNN last night, and the CNN website posted it, where 5 different women accused Mark Halperin of sexually harassing them. And this behavior was all, I believe, the behavior in the CNN story was all, I believe, and we'll check this in a minute, but it was all, I believe, at a previous employer. I think it might have been all at ABC, but it was before he came to CNN. So it's worth noting that. But at the same time, and we don't know if there are other people who've experienced such behavior at current, what I meant to say is, this was all before he came and started working at MSNBC, but we don't know if there are other women who've experienced this behavior. All we know is that the accusers are from a past workplace, but there are a number of them. So we're going to look at that article right now. And so Mark Halperin said last night that he was going to take a leave of absence, and today MSNBC said that they are not going to have him on the air until they get a better understanding of what's going on. I'll show you. Let me show you the story here. So a couple stories. So we're going to talk about this right now, but we'd love to hear what you think about this. So if you have any comments on it during the broadcast, write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner, and I'm happy to read your comments on the air. Also, thank you so much to the moderators in the YouTube chat and on the RSBN.TV chat for moderating the chat room today. I see Barbara Braley and JC there. Thank you for being with us, and I'm sure in Guinevere, and I think we have Common Sense and Gleno on the website. So let me start by just looking at a basic story about the suspension. So this came from Mediaite. Mediaite has this posted: Mark Halperin suspended from MSNBC over sexual harassment allegations. And short story here, we can read it for you. Oh, autoplay video. Every site has autoplay video. Mark Halperin is parting ways with NBC News and MSNBC, where he has been a political analyst for years, after the publication of a CNN report in which 5 women accused the Game Change author of sexual harassment. We will look at that story in a second. Halperin has, since 2010, so that's 7 years now, been a political analyst at NBC News and frequently appears on MSNBC's Morning Joe. In a statement provided to Mediaite, MSNBC called the CNN story about allegations very troubling, adding that Mark Halperin is leaving his role as a contributor until the questions around his past conduct are fully understood. So the statement's a little vague, because I guess you could say, well, he's leaving and he wasn't suspended. But the implication here is that, I feel like it's not just Mark Halperin who has to understand the questions. It's MSNBC and NBC have to understand the questions about his past conduct. So it sounds to me like that's a suspension, in addition to him maybe wanting to take time off. The harassment reportedly took place when Halperin was the political director at ABC News in the mid to late 1990s. His behavior ranged from propositioning employees for sex to kissing and grabbing one's breasts against her will. 3 of the women accused him of pressing an erection against their bodies while he was clothed. Halperin said in a statement to CNN that he now understands his behavior was inappropriate and caused others pain, and apologized, though he denied the allegations involving grabbing women's breasts and rubbing his genitalia against them. So we'll get more on the actual story that CNN posted about this in a second. I do want to point out, so again, this is past behavior that these allegations are about. I'll have to see. This story says it was all from the 90s. I thought the CNN story said it might have been a little bit more recent than that. But anyways, you might say, well, he's getting suspended for something which he's not doing now, and he did, 15 years ago or something, or 20 years ago. But on the other hand, NBC News or MSNBC might say in reply, well, we never heard him apologize for this. It's not like when we hired him, this was known and he'd already had a big apology. So anyways, I want to show you the CNN story about this, because that's where this all started last night. Let's see here. So this is the headline: 5 women accuse journalist and Game Change co-author Mark Halperin of sexual harassment. Now, why is this on here? I'm sorry if this actress accuses George H.W. Bush of sexual harassment. I didn't put that up there. Anyways, this is the headline here. We'll get to the story in a second here. So again, here's the headline. This is the CNN story where the women accuse him of sexual harassment. And now I do want to say, though, before we get to this story, we are viewer supported here at Right Side Broadcasting. Your donations are what keeps us on the air. So if you do enjoy our coverage, please consider making a donation. We want to keep covering news for you, covering President Trump news, covering other breaking news, and giving you an agenda-free coverage that's different from mainstream, that is an alternative from the mainstream media. So if you like that, we rely on your support to stay on the air. So if you want to support us, you can go to the bottom of the YouTube chat right next to the broadcast. There's a little dollar symbol right at the bottom of the YouTube chat. You can just click on that dollar symbol and donate that way. Or you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get notified when we're coming on the air with these videos. I got my notification there today. I'm so happy. So, although I knew we were coming on the air. And also, we are going to be taking your comments on this broadcast right now, just in a few minutes. So if you have any thoughts on the Mark Halperin story on MSNBC and NBC News suspending him for these charges of sexual harassment, reach out to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. All right, I assumed you can hear me because no one's complaining, but I just want to check real quick. Yes, you can. Wonderful. So let's look at the CNN story again. This is the story that really broke. This was the story that came out last night. That was the story that led to this suspension, basically. And again, it's 5 women accused journalist and Game Change co-author Mark Halperin of sexual harassment. So let's look at this story here, get some more details. Veteran journalist Mark Halperin sexually harassed women while he was in a powerful position at ABC News. This was in the past, according to 5 women who shared their previously undisclosed accounts with CNN and others who did not experience the alleged harassment personally but were aware of it. That's written poorly. Who shared their previously undisclosed accounts with CNN and others. Oh, it's according to 5 women and others. So it sounds like when you first read it, it's according to 5 women who shared their experience with CNN and others, but it's according to 5 women and according to others. Okay, that should be written better. Let's see. During this period, I did pursue relationships with women that I worked with, including some junior to me, Halperin said in a statement to CNN Wednesday night. That's last night. I now understand from these accounts that my behavior was inappropriate and caused others pain. For that, I am deeply sorry and I apologize. Under the circumstances, I'm going to take a step back from my day-to-day work while I properly deal with this situation. So last night, it sounded like Mark Halperin was kind of just voluntarily taking time off, but we've seen reports today that he was suspended from MSNBC. Mediaite has it here. The Guardian has it here. Okay, let's continue this story, get some details. of the allegations from the CNN story. MSNBC, where Halperin makes frequent appearances on Morning Joe, said early Thursday that Halperin would leave his roles at that network and as an analyst at NBC News. And again, I actually think Mark Halperin is maybe my favorite person, if not one of my favorite people. He's definitely one of my favorite, but he might be my favorite person on Morning Joe. Again, I do think his analysis is often intelligent, non-ideological, and not, you hear stuff that you don't get other places. So, but he will not be there for the time being. For the time being. Excuse me. MSNBC said, "We find the story and allegations very troubling. Mark Halperin is leaving his role as a contributor until the questions around his past conduct are fully understood." Widely considered, a little background on Halperin, widely considered to be one of the preeminent political journalists, Halperin, 52, has, among other career highlights, been political director at ABC News, co-authored the best-selling book Game Change with John Heilemann, which was made into an HBO movie starring Julianne Moore as Sarah Palin, and anchored a television show on Bloomberg TV. He is in Showtime's The Circus, a show that chronicled the 2016 campaign cycle and the early days of the Trump presidency, and has a project in development with HBO, which, like CNN, is owned by Time Warner. Now, here are some more of the details of the allegations. But women who spoke to CNN say he also had a dark side not made public until now. The stories of harassment shared with CNN range in nature from propositioning employees for sex to kissing and grabbing one employee's breasts against her will. 3 of the women who spoke to CNN described Halperin as, without consent, pressing an erection against their bodies while he was clothed. Halperin denies grabbing a woman's breasts and pressing his genitals against the 3 women. The women who worked with Halperin and who spoke with CNN did not report to Halperin. They were not he was not their superior in terms of like their boss. However, Halperin made many decisions about political coverage at ABC News and had a voice in some critical personnel decisions. None of the women have said, though, that he ever promised anything in exchange for sex or suggested that he would retaliate against anyone. So this is not a case where he was the boss of one of these women or a case of him promising something for exchange for sex. So ABC News said in a statement, Mark left. Sorry, I skipped something. Still, while they no longer work with him, Halperin continues to wield influence in politics and media. The women who spoke to CNN said it was for this reason that they shared their accounts on the condition of anonymity. Others said they still feel embarrassed about what happened to them and did not want to be publicly associated with it. ABC News says Mark left ABC News over a decade ago and no complaints were filed during his tenure. So no complaints during his tenure at ABC News. Okay, more details here. The first woman told CNN she was invited to visit his office in the early 2000s. So that earlier article from Mediaite said this was in the 1990s, but as I said, I remember this being from the 2000s. So the first woman told CNN she was invited to visit his office in the early 2000s when he was political director at ABC News to have a soda, and said that while she was there with him, he forcibly kissed her and pressed his genitals against her body. I went up to have a soda and talk, and he just kissed me and grabbed my boobs, the woman said. I just froze. I didn't know what to do. When she did make her way out of his office, the woman told a friend at ABC News what had happened. The friend told CNN she remembered the woman telling her about the incident and seeing her visibly shaken. The second woman of the 5, another former ABC News employee, described a similar experience in his office during the 2004 campaign cycle. The woman said she was around 25 years old then and wanted to be a campaign off-air, ABC News term for one of the reporters who travel embedded with presidential campaigns, and so she reached out to Halperin, who was part of the decision-making process regarding those assignments at the time. The first meeting I ever had with him was in his office, and he just came up from behind. I was sitting in a chair across from his desk, and he came up behind me, and while he was clothed, he pressed his body on mine, his penis on my shoulder, this woman told CNN. I was obviously completely shocked. I can't even remember how I got out of there, but I got out of there and was freaked out by that whole experience. Given I was so young and new, I wasn't sure that if that was the sort of thing that was expected of you if you wanted something from a male figure in news. The woman said Halperin continued to express a sexual desire for her in subsequent visits, despite being rebuffed. It was more like him coming up too close to me and sort of along the lines of hugging me, she said. She also alleged that Halperin propositioned her for sex on the campaign trail. He would say, "Why don't you meet me upstairs?" And I would say, "That's not a good idea." And he would push the request further, the person said. Eventually, I would just ignore him and go about my business. One of the woman's friends has told CNN that the woman told her about the first incident in Halperin's office. She said her friend had told her sometime after the incident that Halperin had pressed his genitals against her while she was seated in his office, but did not recall being told about unwanted touching during subsequent visits or the alleged propositions for sex. So before we move on to these allegations, and just see the rest of them, because I like to get the story out there about what the allegations are, just want to repeat, these are not allegations about stuff happening at MSNBC or NBC News now. These are allegations from the early, I see below. So it's from the 1990s and mid to the mid 2000s, not from 1990s to the mid 2000s. Now you might say, certainly, even if this is true, it's possible Mark Halperin cleaned up his act, maybe went to some sort of rehab, I don't know, or got treatment and doesn't do this anymore. So it's important to just note that these allegations are all from that time. However, as I said before, MSNBC might say, look, even if he didn't do this stuff anymore, he hasn't been public about it. We didn't know about it, and he's never publicly apologized for it. So just to clarify, though, the story is not saying the stuff happened now. Now, I don't know if anything has happened like this since he's been at MSNBC. I have no idea. I'm just saying these are what the allegations are. So let's just finish going through these allegations, and then I'm going to get your comments on this story. Again, if you'd like to write in, you could write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. We're reporting on Mark Halperin being suspended by MSNBC and NBC News over these allegations of sexual harassment, which we're going through right now, which were reported by CNN last night. Also, what was I going to say? Thank you again to the moderators in the chat rooms for moderating the chat today. We very much appreciate it. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get notified about all of our live videos like this. And you can follow us at Right Side Broadcasting, and on Twitter we're at RSB Network. And if you like our videos, we love when you like the videos on YouTube and share the videos on Facebook. We're a small company. We can't afford to advertise. So when you like our videos on YouTube and share them on Facebook, that really helps let other people know about the videos. So if you like the videos, please do that. Okay, we're going to finish up just reading about these allegations about Mark Halperin, and then I'm going to take your comments. So we have allegations from 5 women. We're up to a third woman now. A third woman, also a former ABC News employee, told CNN she was on the road with Halperin when he propositioned her. "I excused myself to go to the bathroom, and he was standing there when I opened the door, propositioning me to go into the other bathroom to do something," she said. "It freaked me out. I came out of the ladies' room and he was just standing there, like almost blocking the door." A fourth woman who worked with Halperin and was junior to him, I'm not sure exactly what that means. I don't think he was her boss, because it said above he wasn't. So I don't know. Maybe junior to him maybe just means she was in a lower position. Anyways, a fourth woman who worked with Halperin and was junior to him told CNN he once asked her late at night on the campaign trail to go up to his hotel room with him and that she believed him to be propositioning her. She declined. The fifth woman who spoke to CNN was not an ABC News employee at the time of the incident, she alleges. She was not comfortable sharing specifics of their story for publication, but said Halperin, while clothed, placed his erect penis against her body without consent. So we do have 3 different women claiming that while clothed, Halperin placed his erect penis against their body without their consent. The women who spoke to CNN said that they did not report Halperin's behavior to management either because they feared retribution given the level of power Halperin had at ABC and the industry, or because they were embarrassed. In some cases, their fear of him and the sway he holds remains to this day. The woman in the first account, however, said she told a mentor at ABC News who said he wanted to escalate the issue to management. It's unclear if that ever occurred. And then finally, CNN's investigation found that Halperin allegedly exhibited this type of behavior from the 1990s to the mid-2000s. CNN has not learned of any incidents after Halperin left ABC News. So, Mark Halperin has been suspended from MSNBC over these allegations. Would love to hear what you think about this. So write to me on Twitter. Do you have any thoughts on this story? Do you disagree with the suspension? Do you agree with it? What do you think? Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. I'm going to check my messages right now. Patriot of Truth says, I think the solution to this huge problem is great education. So I think what you're saying, Patriot of Truth, is that maybe you think maybe like in workplaces they should have more kind of like sexual harassment awareness training, or in, I don't know, do you mean like in schools or something? So you think educating people would help them more on this, help avoid these kind of issues more? Jay Canuck sent me this. Hold on one second, I have to show you. Jay Canuck sent me a GIF. You can see that's the GIF Jay Canuck sent me. Imagine my shock. Jay Canuck, why? So you're saying, did you know about this beforehand? I had no idea that Mark Halperin had been accused of these things. Maybe you're saying you're just not really surprised that another prominent male has been accused of such behavior. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to mention, for those who are interested, we are going to be carrying live at 2 p.m. President Trump's statement on the opioid crisis. I believe he's going to declare the opioid crisis a national emergency. That's at 2 p.m., an hour and a half from now. So we will be here at Right Side Broadcasting covering that live. I will be back for the post show of that. So join us then for that. Let me see. I want to also check if there's maybe interesting Twitter reaction to this. Ooh, what was this, by the way? I'm seeing if there's any more updates about the Halperin situation. I'm just seeing stuff about him being suspended. Anyways. So we'll see. You know, I don't know. Interesting question about this is, does one interesting question is, does Morning Joe and MSNBC let him back on the air? So, you know, we've seen a lot of cases where journalists do something and they get suspended, taken off the air, and then eventually they're back on the air. So Brian Williams was taken off of NBC News, but now he has his own show on MSNBC. So, you know, is this something where, like, 6 months from now, Mark Halperin is on the air to MSNBC, or never again? Also, I mean, he's a very prominent analyst. So, like, at some point, does some network say, okay, the guy's apologized. It's been like 6 months. He'll work cheap because he hasn't been on the air for a while. We'll just hire him. Or is it like, will he be seen as toxic? So I don't know what will happen with him. In terms of will we see him sooner rather than later? I would think eventually we'd see him somewhere. I don't know though. Will he do some kind of press conference about this? I haven't seen a video interview with him. Will he do an interview with a news show about it? So, but It's weird that he's gone in one day. You go from somebody who's on TV all the time and one of the most prominent political analysts to like not getting on the air anywhere because you're seen as toxic because of these allegations. So I'll be keeping an eye out. As I said before, I do enjoy his analysis. So, all right, just if you have any further comments on this, would love to hear from you. I am at Lookner on Twitter. Andrew Sova, you asked a Jeff Sessions question, but we're staying on topic, Andrew. Jenks writes in, it's all a distraction to keep the Clinton scandal out of the headlines. Now, I have no information, Jenks, that this is a distraction, an intentional distraction. Thank you for writing in, though. All right, I think I am caught up on the messages here. I am. So I think in a minute we're going to wrap up this stream. Thanks again to all the moderators, including Guinevere, Barbara, JC, Common Sense, and Glenn O, and the website. And again, we do rely on your donations to stay on the air. So if you like our coverage, if you like agenda-free coverage of the news, support Right Side Broadcasting by going to the YouTube chat room right next to the broadcast and clicking on the $ sign. That little $ sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get updates about our videos. Follow us on Facebook, Right Side Broadcasting. Follow us on Twitter at Lookner. We are on Twitter at RSB Network, at RSB Network. I am on Twitter at Lookner. I post about breaking news a lot. If you like breaking news, follow me on Twitter. And I think that's going to wrap up our stream for now. But as I mentioned before, we're going to be back at 2 p.m. covering the president's announcement on the opioid crisis. We will have that live for you. So thank you for saying thanks in the chat room. Thank you, Beth, Rebstock, and Light Switch, and Chanel, and who else? And who else said thanks? Other people who said thanks. Anyways. John Regan, Patriot of Truth. But that's going to wrap this up for now, this broadcast. I'll be seeing you guys in a little bit because I'll be doing the post show for President Trump's opioid crisis announcement. But for now, I am Steve Lookner. This is Right Side Broadcasting. We hope you have a good day, and we will see you very soon. Have a good one.